Hello, I'm Nell, the Psychic Channel, and this is an update for the new year 2020, the Chinese Year of the Rat. 2020 is the year of karmic consequences. It is the year of authenticity. It is the year of self-responsibility, and it is the year of truth. It is also the beginning of the end of world consciousness as we know it. The clock has hit zero. 2019 and indeed the last 3 years have been the years of shadow. What does that mean? That means we have been faced with our biggest fears or challenges to our own ego identity. What does ego identity mean? Our ego is our sense of ourselves as being separate from everyone else. When we exist in spirit, we are infinitely connected. We're in unconditional love, and we don't have so much of an individuality. We still have our own soul stream, but we are part of everyone, and we understand everyone. There is no disconnection. When we incarnate into our individual selves on the third dimension, we have to do this through an ego. And the ego is part of the animal brain, the limbic system, that fears dying. It fears lack of survival. It fears loss. In fact, it lives entirely by fear. Mankind has been living by this its whole entire existence. So this year, 2020, is the part of the evolution, the first part, that is going to change us as an entire race of people. It will be the biggest change since we walked out of the caves and started to develop civilizations. This is a year of real outcomes for our shadows. In class, I've talked about we had up until the Chinese New Year 2020 to deal with our shadow work. We had to really look at what was being triggered, at what we were resisting, of what we were fearful of accepting about ourselves. This doesn't have to be negative things about ourselves. This doesn't have to be darkness. Sometimes that is beautiful things that we just don't identify with. For example, an empath may resist being strong or having boundaries. They may resist standing up in front of people and receiving attention. They may resist thinking about themselves instead of others. These things are shadows. This is a year we won't get away from this. The claircognizance, the yang part of the community, they may need to learn more about letting go of outcomes because they are so driven. They are very preoccupied by achieving and outcomes. I will do another update shortly about claircognizance, as this was a question I received recently. 2020 is the year of spitting in the wind. Whatever we put out is going to come back and around very, very quickly. Last year we had so many things and corruption being revealed. We woke up literally on the dawn of New Year's Day in Australia with the consequences of our country, the climate management, with the fires burning all around the country and impacting all of us. People's personal lives have certainly been brought into having to take action. Dysfunctional relationships will no longer work. You will have to choose whether to be completely submissive and live in pain, or whether or not to walk away from these dysfunctional relationships and take a lead on your own life. There has been a lot of talk about this time of ascension, this time of moving to the fifth dimension. What does this mean? The fifth dimension is a place where we don't have egos. This is not going to happen overnight. This is going to take some time. And the ego isn't going to move away easily. It's going to go screaming and kicking. This is the first year of the screaming and kicking. The fifth dimension and the ascension to this has to come through a division, because we still have free will. Every single one of us has a choice to evolve or to remain in the ego fear life. The earth itself will divide. At a quantum level, every thought that we have produces a division. But this is a gigantic division. This is a division of collective consciousness. The Schrodinger's cat, whether we open the box and the cat is dead or alive, will split into two outcomes. This is a year where we open the lid and choose which one to observe. We have about 8 to 10 years of difficulties, of triggers, of challenges to our way of living and our way of choosing. After that time, the younger generation will start to come in and help to heal the world. This is why we have very powerful, very aware young people being born at the moment. How does this impact us now? What do we do with this year of consequences? 1. Know that if you are making a choice, and you know this choice is not in alignment with your truth, is not living by heart, it will have an outcome that impacts you negatively. 2. Know that this year we will have to choose. We will have to go towards the division of ego and dust, impoverished world without connection, or towards the world of compassion, love, connection, and letting go of fear. There's a few things that we can do to make this choice. As I said, one of these is truth. What does it mean to live by truth? It means connecting in with our heart and our gut, rather than with our brain. We're not saying to ignore basic rules and facts. We're just saying to check them out with the more wise part of our body. Our ego will always be motivated by keeping us safe, because the ego fears starving, loss of security, loss of connection, doesn't want to be separated. All these things can, as when we were cave people, result in our death. So most of us spend our entire lifetimes trying to build up ego security, acquiring more safety, more money, more security, and more connection. And most of the time we do this by squashing our truth and our authenticity. Newsflash: the ego, your ego, will not survive. There is one absolute truth of certainty. We will die. Our physical body will cease to be. And when that happens, the ego dies with it. When I came back from my near-death experiences, it astounded me, the ridiculousness that we spend every waking moment trying to ensure our ego is fulfilled and safe, with the full knowledge that ultimately it will cease to exist. So the mind is mostly occupied by the ego fears. When we come down and check with the heart and the gut, these parts of our bodies have an independent brain, an independent neurological system. This is backed up now by science. And these parts of us are not influenced by the ego decisions. So we have to go in and connect with our feeling body. The mind works on logic and shoulds. The body works on our feeling. So the first thing we need to do is actually get in touch with our heart and our gut instincts, is actually feel what we are feeling. I talked about this in our earlier video, the one with how to deal with the crisis and trauma that is happening at the moment. Don't deny your feelings. Listen to them. We are all terribly scared of suffering. This is another truth of our existence in the human body. Suffering is also inevitable. It is part of how we grow and evolve. It is only the fear of suffering that actually causes the pain. When we stop worrying about it, it's actually much easier. So if we come in to listening to our hearts, listening to our emotions, not fearing what is there, all of us will find some grief. All of us will find some level of betrayal or abandonment. All of us will find some level of guilt where we were not authentic or we wish we had done more or done something else. These are part of the human experience. There is no judgment. Our soul, the universe, does not judge us for being good or bad. It is just our learning. So when we come into feeling and listening, we then have a huge tool in order to help make us decisions for the future, decisions for the present. So, do we choose between the huge debates at the moment? There is enormous angst at the moment. You've only got to get on Facebook for 5 minutes and there is a massive anger and division between us all, whether there is climate change or not climate change, whether we should have war or not war, whether we're Labour or Liberal, whether this conspiracy theories are true and things have been designed, or whether they are just as a result of the normal evolution of the earth, whether the earth is angry with us and punishing us. All of these things are actually not relevant, because it is not about what we choose. It is about how we choose. And even this year, if you choose what will be right for our evolution, but you're choosing it from ego fear, it will still eventuate in suffering. So we have to really come back to why are we choosing this? And how are we letting go of some of our fears in order to move this forward? We cannot move forward this year and over the next 8 to 10 years without letting go of our ego fears. If we're adamantly opinionated about something, we have to come back and see if that is part of our ego identity or if this is actually genuine part of our soul purpose. There is something called cognitive dissonance. And this is when we go through extreme pain and triggers from trying to accept a truth that does not agree with our ego identity of ourselves. I'm a good person. I don't give boundaries. But I'm getting pushed to give boundaries. Something like that. Or the world shouldn't be in this mess. We should be able to trust our leaders. We should be able to trust that they will guide us to the right directions. Feel if that's true or not. Every single one of us on this planet has to come into responsibility this year. Ask yourself, How do you feel? Really, how do you feel? Start with some practices of connecting to your emotional body. Your emotional body is the strongest language received from your soul. Meditate, practice yoga, dream, stillness, walk, nature, whatever that means to you. Ceremony, writing, journaling, creativity, art. This is vital. Secondly, when you find the feelings, honor them, listen to them, and then ask them what they need you to do. Most of the time, that will be about actually living your purpose on earth. Thirdly, ask yourself today, what is the number one biggest problem I am facing in my life at the moment? How am I trying to solve this by doing the same thing I have always done? The same reactions and the same behaviors. What do I really want that is being triggered by this problem? And without judging what you really want, without judging your desires and feeling those within your body, I'm not talking about hedonistic desires here. I'm not talking about having a party and billions of dollars and luxury yachts and houses. That may be in your soul desire, but it probably isn't. I'm talking about what you really want. And starting to take steps towards honoring that without judging it, without saying you don't deserve it or can't make this happen. We have to start living through desire, heart desire, rather than fear. Within that desire will be your very purpose for this world. Will be your whole intention that your soul chose to come into your body. There's going to be lots of triggers this year. Lots of very, very fast pushing you back to these questions, because the same old program is not going to work anymore. You have to change. All of us do. So listen, ask, what is your truth? What does your body respond to as being your joy? And start to take little steps towards that. If you're extremely triggered by someone's opinion, step back from the need for your ego to win an argument. It is only ego that wants to win an argument. If people are triggering you, you need to understand they are coming from wounds. Our wounds are going to be displayed this year. All of them. Each individual, each country, and the whole world's consciousness itself. This is not the world judging us and fighting back and punishing us. Mother Gaia just is. She does not judge. But she will manifest consequences for us to heal from. This is a symbiotic relationship, and she is our mother. And just as a mother has to discipline its children, she does also. Come into your truth. Use your triggers and the people who push you and hurt you as gifts of learning. Stand strong in your boundaries. Know this year you will not be able to 100% please everyone. You will have to make choices. There will be sides that you have to take, but those sides need to be chosen with the right methods and the right reasons, not because it makes your ego feel stronger to choose those things. 2020 This is a Master Builder year. It is a year of earth. It is a year of physicality. It is a year of actual happenings. Anything that you haven't uncovered last year will now have consequences this year. It is a marvelous time. It is a time of fantastic upgrade to this earth, if you choose to take it. If you don't, that's your will. But it will take a longer, harder time then to get to a place of compassion, of connection, of communion. The earth is ascending. It will take much time, but this is the beginning of it. The Christ consciousness that has been talked about coming to the earth is happening now. This is not about a man floating out of the sky and landing on earth. This is happening with all of us. This is an ascension with all of us. Out of our normal three-dimensional time-space, where the ego lives, into a place of understanding we are actually eternal. The ego is not. And when we really, really understand that as a truth, we will be in so much joy and so much compassion and so much connection. I hope this has helped. Namaste.